Yeah, thank you. Christian, yeah, Hamza. Well,
Hello.
Bernard, thank you.
Very good.
Michael, nice to meet you. There's verses in the Quran where it says, قالت اليهود ليست النصارى على شيء. The Jews say the Christians don't have anything, and it says وقالت النصارى ليست اليهود على شيء, and the Christians say the Jews don't have anything, and then it just says, this is the way people that don't know anything talk. And the Quran says, تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم. Let us join together, come together on a word that we all share, that there's no God but one true God. I mean, that's what the Quran says to say to the Jews and the Christians, is that we share something.
I saw when I went to Egypt we went to St. Catherine's, and then in their museum they have this document that Muhammad had sent to all the sheikhs around the area,
Right.
because they had written to him and said, what's going to happen to us? They were worried, and he sent this thing and said, don't touch them.
Yes.
They're
Well, our Prophet told us, he told the people when they went out into the Byzantine areas, he said, you will come across people who have isolated themselves.
They built.
Yeah. He said that you'd come across people in the desert who, had divorced themselves from the world. And he said, don't molest them, but leave them and leave their claims. And one of the things about the way that Islam honored the monasteries was not only to protect them, but also the traditional tribute that minority communities paid under Islamic rule, which is called jizya. The monks were exempted from that. Excuse me for I just got a little overwhelmed there.
I believe that this is the way, the only right way, or is it that other people are also...
It's called by God, you see. And yes, we went through periods, when people, certainly when I was young, people looked at priests and religious as the really holy people. But I'd say today, no, we recognize this holiness in every way of living. And so we recognize, I don't come from a strong Catholic tradition in my own family. So when I entered the monastery, it was a lot of my Protestant relatives were worried, that I would be losing my soul. You see, I always hesitate to say this. I have a sister who converted to Islam a few years ago. You say,
oh, she did?
Yes. You look at that and you say, okay, this is where the modern world is today. People are looking for answers.
God put us all here. It wasn't a mistake, because God doesn't make mistakes.
Can we take a look?
Come in. Let's come in the building.
So what I wanted to show you first, this is new construction. Our monastery is about 40 years old. And when I joined 30 years ago, there were 3 monks. And then we began to grow. So we're now 28 monks in this community. And we were built for 8. So I had to begin.
Now, do you follow the canonical prayer hours?
We do. We get up at 3:30 and start praying at 4.
3:30. Yeah. And you pray
morning prayer every day.
Every day at 4 o'clock. Ours dawn prayer would be called Lauds. That comes later because dawn happens here around 5:30.
So you get up, and that's what we call tahajjud.
Yeah, ours is vigils.
Vigils.
Yeah.
It means the same word.
Yeah.
You see, tahajjud is night vigil.
Okay.
And it's encouraged. It's not an obligation. It's highly encouraged. Yeah. That's the time, according to the Quran, when God is closest. And there's also a clarity. The Quran says that the night is ashaddu wat'an wa aqwamu qila, that it's more firm in its
I think in our monastic experience we go through that period when you feel its clarity, and then you go through a period of years when you just struggle with being awake. You see? And then during vigils, I say any bad thoughts you're going to have will come up then.
The bad thoughts come
because you're tired and sometimes you don't want to be there. and so everything comes out.
Well, that's the
And-
mujahada, what the struggle.
Exactly.
with the
So
self.
you begin to struggle. you say.
So how many prayers do you do?
We do seven
Seven
during the day. Yeah,
Seven.
That
Yeah,
would
those
be
are the canonical hours.
the canonical hours.
I went to Catholic boarding schools.
So you know all of them.
Yeah, so, and I used to get up.
Yeah.
I actually, there was a priest there, Father Byrne, who taught me New Testament Greek. When I was a freshman in high school, we snuck out one night to go to a party. And we snuck under his door was open. And I looked up, we were literally crawling, and he had his New Testament, he used to read it in Greek, he had his New Testament Bible, and it was almost magical. He just lowered the Bible and looked at us, and he said,
Crawling along the
"Gentlemen," he said, "Gentlemen, I'll see you at dawn in the church." And then he just put his Bible back up. So we had some penance to do
Yes,
for that.
Start seeing.
And we're going to go over to the chapel, which is in monastic life, the heart.
You know, most Muslims believe if you're not Muslim, you're going to hell. Just like many Christians. So what's interesting is Imam al-Ghazali said that people who are in search of the truth with an open heart, but don't come to the truth before they die, that he felt that they too would be saved.
Yeah.
You know, the word in Arabic for a non-believer is kufr. Kafir, it means the one who covers up, conceals the truth. It's once they know it and they conceal it.
Yeah.
You mentioned when we were outside that your sister became a Muslim.
Yes.
How did you react to that?
I was very happy when she became Islamic Muslim because she had been looking at all kinds of what I call fringe religions. Eventually she met a teacher, a Muslim teacher, and somehow it touched her in a way that she began to think this is the way she should go. And I encouraged her to go in that
Really?
direction. Yes.
You actually encouraged her?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's really been a pleasure to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's
And I
wonderful
hope
to
we
have
meet
you.
in Mecca.
I came to visit here in my 20s. I used to come with my friends for retreat, and I always said, oh, if there was a place like this for women, I would come and join them. And one day, Abbot Philip and Brother Christian told us 2 women had started the Monastery of Our Lady of the Desert for women, basically a place like Christ in the Desert, but for women. And so I knew I had to go. It was it.
The habit, you know, has pretty much been abandoned in a lot of Christianity. But if you look at all the early Christian icons and paintings of the Virgin, she was always dressed very modestly, and that's obviously, you know, in Islam it's considered a very central. Chastity is considered one of the highest virtues for men and women. But particularly obviously for women because of the nature of childbearing and lineage and those things. But you know, you're maintaining that tradition, and I was just curious, was that a choice or is that your order?
It was our choice as a community.
Right, to
that
do that.
We wanted to wear the habit. And I had also, when I looked at religious life in different communities, that was something that was important to me personally.
The habit is this?
The
habit is the whole-
The whole thing, including
the
the
hijab. We call it a hijab, which in Arabic means a barrier.
I mean, I tell people this is my reminder. You know, this is my dhikr Allah, putting this on every day.
Yes.
Yeah, it's your reminder.
Yes, this is what I'm about, you know.
Yeah,
And that's what I say to the women today, you know, why are you putting on that makeup? Right? I mean, I was one too. I have to even admit, I used to wear contacts when I first came to the monastery, but I was so embarrassed to be without makeup. I thought, I'm going to just wear glasses. And I said, Lord, I'm sorry. And then one day I just realized, what am I, you know, what is that all about? I go to town now, you know, we have to do our shopping and doctor's appointments, different things. You know, I can go to the bathroom and wash my face, and there's those poor women. They're in the mirror, you know, God putting my, and I thought, oh Lord, I used to be just as bad as, I used to do the same thing.
I was in Rome and saw the San Egidio community.
Yes.
Weren't they incredible?
Yes. Oh,
that was one of the most
that.
impressive communities I've ever
Yes,
seen. We were actually, I
very.
was invited there for interfaith.
We went, yes, we
thing.
went one evening to visit them, and then for Vespers,
Yeah.
we ate pizza with them. It was a wonderful
Yeah.
visit, and to me, it's very hopeful. And I think us out here, hundreds of people come. I mean, we don't see them.
Yeah.
This is very unusual for us to come.
Yeah.
We on Sundays after Mass, we have coffee and cookies.
So you're
with the kids.
cloistered.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, it's really been a pleasure to meet you.
Thank
And
you.